the source of a solid body guitar. I've always loved solid body guitars. In fact, the only reason that I stopped using a solid body guitar, which happened to be a Les Paul Custom, a black Les Paul, in 1966. I was with Jack McDuff, and the only reason that I stopped using that, it was stolen. We were performing at a place in Philadelphia called the Showboat. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the performance, everyone was getting ready to leave, and I wanted to visit Mom and Dad just before we left for Chicago. So I left my instrument in the van with all of the other instruments, the Hammond B3 and 2 Leslies. Red Holloway had his tenor in there. Joe Dukes had his drum set in there. And I went to visit Mom and Dad. They went back to the hotel, and I forget our driver's name at that time. But we met, and I drove from Philadelphia to Chicago and got there and came to find that there was no guitar. The van was stolen. The organ was gone, the guitar was gone, the tenor saxophone was gone, the drums was gone. So McDuff took me to a pawn shop on the south side of Chicago, and we found a guitar there for $10, $20, and it was the best one in the place, to tell you the truth, and we had no time to go looking for anything of value. And it was so bad that I'll never forget it. A matchbook cover had to be put in the pickup to hold it up because it was falling inside the guitar. And I used that for the first night, and then the next day, after the opening night, we went and I bought, or Jack gave me an advance. Of course, I bought a Gibson ES 175 carved top hollow body, you know. And from that point forward, I used nothing but nothing but hollow body guitars. I went from a Gibson 175 to a Gibson L5, and then from a Gibson L5 to a Johnny Smith model Gibson. And then from that, finally in 1976, I began to endorse Gibson again. And Gibson designed the L5S, which was an L5 with a solid body. And I used that on tour up until the point that I had mentioned earlier that I couldn't really perform anymore. And that was in 1977. And this embodies the L5 in terms of its proportions with regards to the Florentine cutaway, the size of the fingerboard, the neck, and the humbuckers, the pickups, as well as the inside, the guts, with toggle in its position. The difference in terms of the personal change of this was the addition of F-holes with it as a semi-solid, so that at high levels of output in concert, there is no feedback as opposed to the norm when you normally have to stuff a hollow body guitar with pillowcases and towels from the hotel.
Mylar or balloon or whatever.
Yeah, so that it doesn't feed back at higher volumes. So that's worked out wonderful in a wonderful way. And then there's the top of the head where I worked with Mike McGuire to include the strings in a straight position, primarily because there are no open strings used in the way I play. I play with closed fingers even behind the nut, behind this. So that's another fret. And when the strings are straight in line, it makes it easier and it makes it more natural to feel that part of the guitar, with the exception of just a larger nut or a larger bar in it, being the nut itself. It's like playing an extra fret here with the first finger behind that nut. So all of the patterns that I know everywhere else, I know there as well, using the first finger back here. And the fact that the strings are in line and evenly
facilitates that more.
Facilitates that, yeah.
It's a beautiful guitar. Your signature is on the pickguard as well.
Well, my signature is only on my model, on my personal instrument.
Oh, really?
Being this one here and this one here. And these were the initial instruments that came in as prototypes. And Mike McGuire wanted my signature on the guitar. And I advised Gibson about my own personal concern that youngsters who finally have an interest in a good instrument, a fine instrument, are going to be dismayed due to the fact that this has nothing to do with them, my signature. And it really interrupts and invades the intimacy that they can have with this, their finest friend, their closest friend. Mm-hmm. So I said, let's get the signature off of all of the retail products. It's fine for me, that's okay, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want it on the guitar, primarily because if I saw someone else's name on a guitar, I wouldn't buy it myself.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
So I also took the inlay out of the neck on both the custom as well as the standard, for the same reason, to bring the cost down, because I don't want something so fashionably fabulous that it's inlaid with abalone and other fine overcharges. You know.
Yeah.
I want it to be available to those who really are serious enough to want to use a fine instrument at a minimal cost and the highest quality at the same time.
To me, when I see a guitar without inlay, I think of the more expensive custom-made guitars, the $5,000 and up guitars, so that's
True.
somewhat ironic right there. You've been taking this out on tour.
Yes.
I've seen you myself. Let's speak about the tour a little bit with Joey DeFrancesco, Billy Hart, currently Byron Landham.
Yes.
And tell me about the initiation of that, please.
The initiation of my choice of individuals for this particular tour of mine came about for a number of reasons. Recently, when Charles Earland passed away, there was a tribute to Charles, and it was done on High Note Records, and Joe Fields called me and asked me if I would participate in honor of Charlie. And I said, of course I would. You know, I'd be happy to come in as a guest artist and perform a couple of tunes on the album, which I did. And the other members that participated in this particular project included Joey DeFrancesco, amongst others. And it was the first time we had a chance to play together. And there was a great deal of very exciting rapport between all of us there, and we discussed the possibility of performing together at some point in the upcoming future. And I had met Joey before this, but we never, I mean, just strictly as neighbors, and we just went out for dinner a couple of times and talked. But this time we played together, and it was very inspiring. So I had a tour coming up, and it seemed to be perfect to take advantage of the opportunity to once again perform with Hammond B3 and two Leslies, like I used to with Don Patterson, and with Jack McDuff, and with Richard Groove Holmes, and a number of others, Trudy Pitts as well. And our timing was right, everything was perfect. So we set up a tour, and at the end of that tour, I also set it up, I set all of that up so that it would reach its climax with a live recording at Yoshi's in Oakland, California, which we did. And we did that in December. And we started the tour in Chicago, actually in New York City, and then Chicago. Then from Chicago to Cahumbwa Theater in Santa Cruz, and then from Santa Cruz up to Seattle, Washington, to Jazz Alley, and or Showcase, Jazz Showcase, and then from Jazz Showcase down to Yoshi's in Oakland. And by that time, the band was fluid, and the rapport was really enjoyable.
And that's your new CD?
That's the new CD. It was, in fact, it was released day before yesterday.
And what label is that?
It's on Blue Note
Blue
Records.
Note, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's on Blue Note.
Let's go to a clip of you with the trio live at Yoshi's.
Live at, no, the clip that you're referring to is live at the Iridium in New York City.
Mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.